Okay, James Maduk speaking. Welcome to another TrainingSites.io video on Saturday afternoon. If you're over 40 and you're thinking about how much you would love to understand this ChatGPT stuff to build your business, start a side hustle, create an online course, how-to material from all your experience, it can be really confusing. You're often told that you'll be able to learn some prompts and the world opens up to you. You're going to be financially independent. You know everything you need to do or know about ChatGPT and you're just away to the races. Well, I was thinking about that today and I was just looking at all the work that I've done personally. And I think that's absolutely, well, a big lie slash misconception. It's just not necessarily true. So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the things you need to know about creating prompts for ChatGPT or any of the other AI tools, and the difference between what you think should happen and what really happens. And I'll give you an example of this that I ran into recently. Of course, I subscribe to all sorts of YouTube channels and newsletters and things like that as I round out my knowledge and experience about ChatGPT and creating these online businesses. And it was interesting because I subscribed to some channels about people who are talking about standard operating procedures. And they actually have courses on how to create and use standard operating procedures and how to apply them in your business. And they have hundreds of templates that you can use to create these standard operating procedures. And the idea is that, of course, if you follow them, you're going to get the same answer or same result all the time. I also read another newsletter from another person. It was Ryan Dice from Digital Marketer, who's been at this a long, long time. And I guess he has a larger company and he thought, you know what, I'm going to take, this was in his newsletter, he said, you know what, I'm going to take a week off with the whole company. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a workshop or a conference for the whole company to build out our standard operating procedures, our exact policies and steps that we use to do our business. And the whole gist of this was, the interesting thing is at the end of it, they had standard operating procedures, but they went and visited them or revisited them a month later, and almost no one was using them. And this is exactly the same thing as it happens with ChatGPT and all of these tools and prompts that we use. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say you are thinking about trying to find out about how to use ChatGPT, and you've been getting newsletters or people are telling you you have to be a prompt engineer or know how to use prompts. So if I just go to YouTube right now and want to learn how to do it, I'm just going to type in and I'm just going to ask I'm just going to say, how do I create a prompt for ChatGPT? And I'm going to get a whole bunch of results here, right? And again, these are ones that I get, and you'll notice some of the topics. Master the perfect prompt. Power prompts that change your business. 7 power prompts. GPT PowerPoint prompt. A single prompt creates a perfect one. Some other ones. The formula for ChatGPT. Create any ChatGPT prompt. The perfect ChatGPT prompt. So even though we're kind of being taught this, or this is the information that we're given if we go to look it up, you're just starting out, or if you're not overly experienced in this, you go, oh my God, I don't know how to put this prompt together, or what is the perfect prompt? Do I only have to use the perfect prompt? If I have the perfect prompt, will I get the perfect results? It's like using those standard operating procedures. You have the same standard operating procedures, so you should get the same result. Does that happen with ChatGPT? No, I think it's a bit of a lie or a misconception. I don't think it's done on purpose. However, I have done the same thing because I've taught stuff like the TEACH model and the GEAR framework and the different styles of prompting in kind of the implication that if you use them, you're going to get a perfect response. And if you're an experienced user, you might be able to do that because you've already gone through the process of fine-tuning, refining, and clarifying the prompts that you use to get a known result. But when you're starting out, hey, It's like you're thrown to the wolves, right? Here's your one prompt. It said it's the perfect prompt, so I should get the result that I want. Doesn't happen. And what actually happens, and you have to put this in context. If it was true, you would find that if we went and did a search and some kind of queries to ChatGPT or Claude and just say, what is the most common prompt that is used? Or how many prompts do you get a day and how many of them are identical? Because if it's a perfect prompt and you get the result that you want, you should be able to put one prompt in and get the answer that you want, right? So what actually happens, I actually did a little bit of research before I came on here, and I was trying to take a look at, they had, and I think this was for ChatGPT, they had 10 million queries a day right now. And then this was in June of 2024. So you got 10 million queries, and I think they had 187. Don't take my word for it. And I don't know what it is when you're watching this one, but it was something like 10 million queries and 180 million responses. Just a large number of responses based on queries. So they had queries, but then they had responses. And they're just trying to figure out, well, where does this come from and how does it actually happen? So here's kind of the gist on this kind of picture of prompting and perfect prompting, and why I think it's kind of a lie and doesn't apply, especially if you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out how to use this. One of the ones I talked about is a conversational prompt earlier. And that conversational prompt is all about asking a question and getting a response with ChatGPT, and then kind of that back and forth between it. But it's more about kind of exploring opportunities, not giving a particular task, right? Or exploring answers, or exploring particular topics that you want to do. So those ones often start with not a fancy prompt. If you're just starting out, you don't go, oh, I've got to, the one that's common is the one that's the perfect prompt. It's the one that they talk about ACR. It's basically you give ChatGPT an action, you give ChatGPT some context, and you ask for a response. So it's like, how do I get that formula put together when you don't really know? Normally it doesn't happen. Even if it's what people say it's supposed to happen, what normally happens if you're a new user is, it's like, tell me about rocket science, or help me understand rocket science. It isn't, here's a perfect prompt, use it, and you get the answer. People just have a conversation. That's how most people start. So it's not a perfect prompt at all. And that conversational prompt is usually back and forth in a linear fashion between them. Now, what normally happens is you'll do a back and forth a couple times, no perfect prompt, you're having a conversation. But what happens after that, in many cases that I end up doing, and I actually have another video on one of the ones on how I make a YouTube video each day. And this whole process I'm talking about is the one that I end up using. It's not one prompt, perfect prompt. It's a series of questions or structured questions that get asked during the conversation. So the one that ends up being used is this. I usually tell me about, or how do I explain or expand on this idea, or is this a good idea? And that's how it starts. And then from there, I get a general response from ChatGPT. And then after I get a general response, I may get 5 or 6 different ideas that I get in that response. And I might see one, and what I'll do is I'll clarify it by saying, what about number 1? How does this apply? So I'm now kind of clarifying or digging down into one topic of 5 topics that I originally got. And these ones are, it's like a conversation, get an idea, get a result, and from the result, you're clarifying each of the pieces to get a response that you want. Now, I'm not doing a fancy prompt to get this. I'm just basically talking, but it's structured. And you would go maybe, you'd get a response, and then you would clarify it, and then you would get a little piece of information, and then you might use another clarification question to get a little bit more fine-tuned, and then you might say expand on it. You may end up with 5 or 6 prompts that have nothing to do with a formula or a framework, It's just narrowing down, expanding, and confirming what particular piece you're talking about. And when you go there, what happens at the end? What I normally do is I get the response that I want or the information that I'm looking for, and then I write it down in a Google Doc and I archive it and keep it. I don't keep all of it. I keep the end one that I got to by doing a whole bunch of questions and answers, clarification of what I originally got when I just asked for a basic idea. And this is an example of what happens in a course, right? If I say, look, I'm thinking of putting a course together and the topic is this, and I'm thinking about 7 lessons, it'll give in 7 idea lessons, an outline, right? If I'm doing any kind of how-to material, there's usually some kind of steps that I have in the back of my mind or that I'm thinking of, and it's like, you're going to have these 7 steps. You're going to clarify each of them. At the end of the day, you're going to get the response you want, and you're going to separate it in a piece of paper, and then you're going to repeat it for the second topic. So it's not about a prompt. There's no perfect prompt, and you don't have to get hung up on it. What you need to understand is that you're going to have to get some basic information, and then you're going to just have to clarify those pieces to get what it is that you want. There's no special prompt. There's nothing like that that you have to worry about. So that's what really gets used. That's what really happens. Now, it happens for beginners because they don't necessarily have the experience of having tested different kinds of questions and having the response be the same. But you'll find that after you use it for a while and you've been playing around with it, you'll know there's a series of questions that you ask to do the clarification. Now, is it a prompt? You could call it a prompt, but it's not fancy. It just knows that you just know that if I kind of ask these questions, I'll get the result that I want for the whatever I'm using it for. So this is like, don't get hung up on prompts. It's really, really simple. And at the end of the day, there's 3 kind of key takeaways here that you got to think about. You're going from the how do I to getting a general response, getting more specific, getting exactly what you want. When you're thinking about this, the big kind of myth or thing that you have to keep in the back of your mind, at least I do, is that it's often hard to have context that ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other ones actually understands. Remember, if we say, act as if you are an expert in rocket science, or I'm trying to create an online course for or about, what the heck does that mean? It can have some ideas of it, and even if you explain it in a paragraph of stuff about the context, about, I want a course outline about this, or because I have these particular students that I'm trying to teach these outcomes, ChatGPT doesn't really understand perfectly what that context is, and you're going to have to ask a whole bunch of clarifying questions to make sure that you guide it towards making sure that the outcomes are appropriate for the people that you're trying to help. So again, it's not a prompt giving context. That's not all that there is. The other thing that you're going to have to remember on this one is that the real value of this is making sure that you get the response that you want by working with ChatGPT and not expecting the prompt to give you the response. It's just not true. I don't think it ever happens for most of the material that a lot of people are creating. I don't know if it works with data sets, for example, or if you're doing technical work, but if you're creating how-to information, technical information, it doesn't usually work. It's like there's always other stuff that goes on. So context may not understand. Single prompt doesn't work, not that I know of. I've never used a single prompt or a best prompt. I've always used a conversation that is more a clarification or fine-tuning of what I get in the basic information. And the other thing is over time, you're going to understand and have a general idea of the responses that you want. Even though you say a response, I want you to create a course outline. It doesn't necessarily know what a course outline is for the kind of course that you're creating. You have to make sure that you can learn and say, this is the format or the way I want the response to be. And that just takes trial and error. The other one I just want to touch on, and again, this is another one that comes up on any of the videos that you see. People talk about it, and I have too, about something called a mega prompt. And if you're just starting out at this, the bigger the prompt doesn't mean the better the answer. The bigger the prompt does not equal the better the answer. I have some prompts that I've actually given to and put in with some of the other videos. A mega prompt is perfect if you've done this 100 times and you know exactly what it is in the format that you want, and you found something that's worded that you want to get the same answer for. You've made the clarifications already. So just don't assume that if you're given a prompt, a big prompt, and you buy a prompt or someone tells you to structure a big prompt, it doesn't mean you're going to get the result that you want. You know, this is all about, again, conversations, but more importantly, clarification and knowing what it is that you want. And if you're just starting out, that can be really, really hard. The big thing here is it's going to take trial and error. It's going to take some time, not only for you, but for the results or responses that you want, that you know that you want. Often you don't even know what the response is as you're just getting started. If any of this is of interest to you, of course, like and subscribe, because we do these videos, or I do these videos every day, pardon me. And if you want to learn about how to basically use ChatGPT and Claude or any of these tools with AI, one-on-one with me, make sure to use the link below. I'll open up another screen here, this one below, AI course, trainingsites.io AI course, and we can work one-on-one together, and I can work on the prompts with you, work on clarifying what it is that you want, use some tools or styles of prompts to get responses that you want. But this is just one-on-one coaching, you and me, and we'll spend some time in it getting the results that you want. This particular page is about creating online courses, but we can also do it about any of the outcomes that you're doing if you're looking at teaching online, creating how-to information, and having some fun with it. So hope you enjoyed this. There's lots more. Like and subscribe to the channel. All sorts of stuff going on about creating great how-to information that makes you happy, that you have fun creating, and more importantly, it answers the questions and guides people to the experiences that you have as an over 40 creator. So my name is James, trainingsites.io. Take care and expect the best. We'll see you Saturday, maybe. I don't know, I might do something tomorrow if an idea comes to me. If not, it'll be Monday morning. Take care, expect the best.